Hello there and welcome to TalkPodTV. My name is Ian Dickson and today I am in conversation with the rather lovely Jane Brooks. So we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. We're going to talk a little bit about the police, I think. I think we'll talk about some of your business stuff and actually talk about you, I think, is probably a good thing to do. So, so that's probably a good place to start. So I've known you, I think, probably for about 9 months, maybe. Yeah. So there was an immediate affinity. So 1979, I was a policeman. When did you join the police force?
1991.
No, oh right, okay. So I'd left before you joined. So, so there was definitely an affinity there, and I certainly didn't do as long as you did. So I don't want to go into detail about who Jane Brooks is. You're Jane Brooks. So yep. I think a great place to start it would be to share with our watcher. Our cyber stalker is who is Jane Brooks? So because I think you have an amazing backstory. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so I was a police officer for 26 years. I actually joined later because I'm very short and I didn't actually grow, but the Equal Opportunities legislation came in.
Right.
So okay. As soon as that came in, all forces took away their height restriction. Because it actually had no bearing on the actual job that you were doing. So as soon as that happened, I applied and I got in. So, yeah, but I couldn't do that until the legislation had changed.
Right. So what were you? So if you were a late to market thing, what were you doing before that?
Just fell into work after school. So did a summer job for the civil service, working on what was then supplementary benefits, working on the front counter, which in those days was very interesting. Absolutely loved it. Had a place to do law at university, but because I got used to having money, basically decided that I wasn't going to go much to my parents' disappointment, and I carried on with the civil service until the point where I actually thought, you know what, I need to make a decision. I either need to get promoted, in which case I need to decide, am I going to stay in the civil service? And I decided then that I wouldn't, that I'd go and do something else. And at the time I had a friend that I worked really closely with, and I persuaded her to leave at the same time. So she went off and did a teacher training degree, and I went off to Sparshot College and did a farm secretarial course.
Okay.
Come from a sort of rural background, living on the Isle of Wight, so farming, although my family didn't farm, all my friends were into farming, so I think that's where that kind of came from. Quickly realised when I was doing the course that actually it was going to be a really lonely job, because the farm secretary is the one that gets left in the office. Everybody goes out and you don't see anybody the whole day unless someone's come to sell a bit of fertiliser or whatever. So I never went and became a farm secretary, but I learnt some really good skills. So typing skills, admin skills, bookkeeping skills, and I just went off and did a couple of things. Again, just kind of jobs that I fell into, and then as soon as the legislation changed, I applied and got into the police, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's one of those jobs that I have a very low boredom threshold, and if you're bored in the police, there's always some other opportunity that you can go and apply for, even if it's a change of location and a change of scenery. So yeah, it was a good career.
So you, I'm sure, must have gone through some of the same thought processes that I did. I mean, I didn't do 26 years, I did 8 years. But when I left, it was like, because I went in from school, 17 and a half, was, so I know how to drive a car fast. I have a good understanding or recognition if somebody is as high as a kite or drunk as a skunk. And I even learned how to disarm somebody. And I'm thinking, well, how's that going to help me in the corporate world or in the business world? So, and then there was some very profound realizations that actually I was really quite highly skilled from a people perspective and from some of the other skills, which I don't want to sort of steal away from you.
But it actually takes you a while to realise that, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So and still to this day, there are things that I do that I think to myself that was from my police training. So it's incredible, really. And to have gone in as young as I did, I think it had a very deep impact on me. So that I always talk about the fact that I think we have perfect memories, and it's just trying to recall stuff from that far back. And sometimes I think something will come up. I think, well, that's my police training. So 26 years, you've left the police force. You're thinking, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So what did you decide to do? So let's talk about that.
Okay, so really kind of prior to leaving, I was having those thoughts about what am I going to do, because I'm definitely not the type of person that's just going to put their feet up and do nothing. It just is not in my DNA. So, a few years before, I was thinking, actually, what am I going to be doing when I leave? So I did a degree, a criminology degree, and got a first, which was absolutely brilliant. And then I also did a leadership qualification through the Chartered Management Institute, so that I could become a member of the Chartered Management Institute when I left, with a view to almost like formalising, I suppose, the management skills that I've learnt. It's like a kind of piece of paper that kind of shows actually I can do that.
Credibility.
And at the moment I'm just doing my chartership.
Right.
So again, sort of formalising, actually, I do know what I'm talking about, and so that process of thinking about how am I going to package this all really started a couple of years, or at least a few years before. And then when I left, it was then thinking about actually how can I package that to be really useful in the private sector. What is it about me in particular? I think you've talked before about unique selling point and stuff. So actually, what am I going to offer that no one else does? And I think I have done that and packaged it up to a point now where actually it is unique.
And it's called
How Management Matters.
Okay, fabulous. How Management Matters.
And
so tell us a bit about that. How does that work?
So what is unique about it is that I basically offer a service to help businesses tackle high staff turnover.
Okay.
The fallout from that is if you tackle high staff turnover, it basically affects your bottom line.
Yeah.
Because cost of staffing, getting new staff, replacing staff, losing staff is probably about £5,000 per person.
Yeah.
So if you start to tackle that will instantly have an impact on your profits. And actually, I think more importantly, it will actually make businesses look attractive as an employer. And over the next couple of years, that is going to be really crucial for a lot of businesses.
So the first time we spoke, and you shared with me on the phone, actually.
Yeah.
You were looking for a business coach.
Yeah.
You'd been pointed my way, and we were having a conversation. I got you to explain to me what it is that you were doing. And I come from a corporate background. I was a corporate director twice, and I was surrounded by people that had, and in fact, it happened to me. You end up in positions of authority, positions of leadership, through longevity, not through skill set.
Yes.
So based on the amount of time that you're spending with a company and your dedication and commitment, what they do is they scupper you and they move you out of the seat you're best seated in. They move you into a seat that you know nothing about, give you a badge that says you're a leader or a manager, and then expect you to get on with it. And so when you were sharing with me what it was that you were setting out to deliver and to share and to serve, and how you were going to serve, it sort of put the hairs up on the back of my neck, and I thought, oh my God, 20 years I could have done with you every single month of the year, because I had people around me that were what you call, and I'll get you to say it
Yeah.
because it really resonated with me. What do you call them?
Accidental managers.
Accidental managers. You know, they end up there by accident, so not by design, just through longevity.
But I think it's also important to actually realise that quite often that is the boss of a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because actually when someone sets up a business, they do that because they've got a product, you know, that they want to get out there, or a service. No one sets up a business because they want to manage staff.
So we've sort of established, and you know, from personal experience, and I remember saying to you on the phone, that is so a product. You know, definitely have a service there that the corporate market and the private sector could benefit from. Yeah. Knowing, again, from a personal perspective, the quality of your leadership and management background through the services, and of course through the qualifications that you are picking up along the way, that there's masses of credibility there. So tell me a bit more then, how you're taking this to market, the types of people that you want to work with. You seriously have a great message, you have a great product, and this is a great opportunity to sort of share the types of people that you want to work with or are working with, and a little bit more about your services then.
Okay, so right at the very beginning, I really highlighted several sectors that really suffer with high staff turnover. So the cleaning industry, the care industry, and the construction industry. So I call them the kind of 3 Cs.
Okay.
And particularly with the cleaning and the care industry, they have a problem at the moment for credibility of the roles, but they also have a problem in actually recruiting and keeping staff, and that problem is only going to get worse. So I'm really passionate about, there are businesses within those sectors that do it really well, and they keep their staff for an awful long time, and that is actually part of their customer service. You're going to see the same person all the time, and actually that's really important. So it can be done. I just want to be able to show other businesses how they can do that. And to that end, I'm actually doing some workshops for a national cleaning association to their members about, you know, how they can be a good employer, and, you know, give them some, you know, tips, and help them with their skill base, because quite often it is about that. Someone doesn't know how to do something, not because they've set out to be a bad boss. Well, that's why I love that
accidental manager terminology. So tell me a bit more about products and services then, as in, so you talked about workshops there. Yeah. So what other types of things do you offer to, so what flavours have you got? What flavours of service?
Well, it's really important that any business of any size can benefit from what I do. So it could be a business that's got, say for instance, 50 staff, but it could be a really small business that actually wants to start taking on staff, and wants to get it right right from the very beginning. Otherwise, it can be really quite costly for them. So what I do is can do an initial consultancy, and the length of that is obviously dependent on how big the business is, because what I'll actually do is actually go in and speak to the managers, speak to the staff, speak to the boss, really get a flavour for what is going on, and some people have an idea of why they're losing staff and have chosen to kind of stick their heads in the sand, but sometimes it isn't really obvious. But actually speaking to everybody, you can really find out what is going on, and actually what is really important to people, and most importantly engage them then in the process. So I can do a one-off consultancy, give them all the recommendations, and that business can go away and put all those things in place. Or what I can then do is then support the managers or the boss over a 3-month period, either face-to-face, almost hand-holding, or online, and actually help them to put those things in place. So it actually becomes very natural to them, and becomes business as usual. The other thing that I can do, which actually is quite useful, is I do like a sort of triage.
Okay.
So that is based on going once a month to the business. They know the date that that's going to happen, and they basically offer out hour slots to their staff.
Okay.
So they can basically come in for an appointment with me, and it can be the staff, the managers. I suppose it could even be the customers, you know, if they wanted to do that, and basically to talk through if they've got an issue, and I will give them some ideas about how they can resolve that, or you know exactly what they need to do, and it might well be out of that that I'll identify something that's quite systemic within the business, in which case then we'd look at actually we need to change this because there's clearly something wrong, and do that on a monthly basis with a company.
Fabulous.
And it's confidential and really helpful, and there's someone outside of the manager or within that business for people to talk to, and being able to air that actually sometimes is really important.
So fabulous. So you've clearly got a broad spread of different ways to be able to support and help, so that it works for them, as well as, you know, trying to wedge your systems or ways of working. So so let's do two things. I knew the time would just fly by, as always happens. So let's do two things now. So let's do maybe some things that people should be looking out for. So if you've got people that are running a business and there's attrition going on, or there's people that are unhappy, so share maybe 2 or 3 things. If this is happening, then you've got a problem. And then maybe we can then look at ways, see if I can persuade you to give some tips away on some things that people could do to try and resolve or fix some of the things that people are experiencing. So I'm putting you right on the spot.
Okay.
So just a couple, you know.
Okay, so for me, it's actually really important that a business has a policy in place that they do exit interviews, and it doesn't have to be a formal interview, but just that conversation really takes place with someone, and that it's actually recorded. And the reason I say that is because then they start to build up a picture of actually why people are leaving, and not just assuming. And I have had a business owner that actually said to him, well, we don't do that. So I said, well, you know, why don't you do that? And they said, well, it's like rubbing salt in the wounds. But actually, sometimes, you know, even that staff member going, it's actually a really good process for them to actually be able to have the opportunity to say why they are leaving. Because I'm a firm believer in that if someone's leaving, actually still treat them right. Because it could well be that they're leaving in order to go and get other skills. And actually, if they're treated right when they leave, they might well come back as a really skilled employee that you'd like to have back on the team. But also, it's really important to know why people are leaving. Because actually, if you don't know why, you could put all these things in place and it doesn't resolve it.
Okay, so that's a good tip. And have you got another one?
Look at maybe of how to value staff.
Okay.
And that can be, doesn't have to be a monetary thing. It can just be having in place one-to-ones, for instance, that are diarised, so the person knows that that is going to happen, that it happens on a regular basis. So I always suggest every 6 to 8 weeks. And actually, the value comes from they know that that's happening, and that they can actually think about what they want to input in it. And then most importantly, starting off that conversation. This is one of the reasons why I called the business How Management Matters.
Right, okay.
Because I feel it's really important to open up any conversation with a staff member and actually say, how are you?
Right.
And that actually starts the tone for someone actually feeling valued right the way through.
Makes good sense. So, how can we find you? So, if this has resonated with anybody out there, which I absolutely know it will, and you know, as I say, in the time that I've known you, I absolutely, we talked off air before we came on, I so take my hat off to you to have spent the time that you did within the police force, and to have well, you kind of, how tall are you, just out of interest?
5'2" 3/4.
Right, to be 5'2" and something, in a testosterone environment
Yeah.
like the police force, and I know what it's like. I know the sense of humour there. So I know that for somebody to have spent 26 years in that environment, there's definitely somebody that's very tenacious, driven, strong. And I can remember seeing you at a networking event, and it was almost, well, what is networking? So, you know, you're going into an environment you've never been into before. Stand up as if you've been there forever. So I know that an incredibly capable, driven and focused individual. And, you know, I think today you've, you know, absolutely given a good idea of the type of person that you are. Your business, your product, my God, is so a product. You know, if people out there are, and you know, you're absolutely right. You know, it's in a very, I call it the cost of mishire.
Yeah.
The cost of mishiring is just bad for everybody. It's bad for the individual. It's bad for the business. Bad for the customer. So you definitely have a product there. Where can they find you? So, you know, if this is resonating with people and they think I need to speak to Jane, some of the places where they might be able to seek you out.
So on social media, so if they want to drop me a message or connect with me on LinkedIn, I love people connecting with me on LinkedIn. If they want to message me on Facebook, I'll pick that up. I've got a website which is www.howmanagementmatters.co.uk. Email, which I've now realised is a very long email.
Yes.
info@howmanagementmatters.co.uk, or phone me.
Coach's tip, next week, get your web geek to move all of your emails to info@hmsomething.co.uk rather than how much, because one letter typed wrong, well, you know, typed wrong in that, it's gone. You won't ever get it. So
Well, I have that with my name.
it's all part of the learning, isn't
People
it?
take up Brookes has got an E in it, but you know, quite often a lot of people don't spell it with an E. So yeah, but I'm quite active on social media, so you know, I don't miss when people kind of connect with me. And
I've seen a lot of people come and go over the years, and your arrival into the business network and the circuit has been a breath of fresh air. I think that you are definitely here to stay. You're somebody that has a great product, and I absolutely wish you the very best with it moving forward. I know that you've got clients on the way, so you know this is all good to see. And it absolutely, you know, it's just long overdue. So as I say, I could have done with you 20 years ago. So while you were chasing robbers.
And ultimately, I just want to share my passion for people, and you know,
and that comes across as well.
People.
So. Fabulous. So there you go. That's our interview today on TalkPod TV. I really want to thank Andrew and Jim for sponsoring the show and allowing Jane to share with everybody out there. If this is for you, TalkPod TV, you need to get in touch with Andy and talk to him about coming on and being interviewed. The content can be repurposed. You can have subtitles and things put on it. It's a really great way to up the ante on Facebook Live. Highly recommend it. So check out TalkPod TV. Thank you, Jane. Really good. You were just fabulous. I knew you would be. Very, very good lady. So there you go. Jane Brooks, How Management Matters, TalkPod TV. Thank you for viewing today.